Hey guys, I've almost got the Admiral 20X122 done, but before I wrap this up, I'm going to take a little break to place an order with Mauser Electronics and to update you guys on a few more new recent developments. No matter how carefully I try to plan ahead, it seems like I'm always running out of parts. So even though I ordered this big bag of parts from Mauser Electronics recently, I just ran out of 560 ohm half watt resistors. Well, that's hardly enough to fill up a full order, so I'm going to look ahead to upcoming projects to see what else I might need. Now, I know I said I was going to work on this Philco 643 farm radio next. Well, I went through my various unfinished projects, and to be fair, this is the next oldest unfinished project, so I'm going to work on this next. Plus, I don't think it'll take very long. This is actually the second oldest radio. Well, not the second oldest radio, but it's the second radio that I ever bought. The first being my Philco 3710 console. This is a Philco 3930 slant tabletop radio. It's got the original finish, which is in quite good condition, and it actually worked when I got it. Not great, but the power transformer's good, and I could actually tune in some stations. However, this is from the notorious era in Philco radios when they were using rubber-coated wires that turned rock hard and disintegrated, and all the insulation starts falling off. So I need to do a bit of rewiring. But otherwise, not a whole lot of work left to do. Well, I think part of the problem with me running out of parts is that I've just been trusting parts lists like this, and I'll just go through and see whatever I don't have and order it. But more often than not, when I actually pull the chassis and start working on it, I realize that there have been production differences and I need parts other than what I actually ordered. So before I place an order for the parts I need to recap this, I want to pull the chassis out and see what I really need for it. Also, I will pull out this chassis. So even though I ordered a whole bunch of parts to restore 3 Philcos, 3 Admiral TVs all with the same chassis, I never actually pulled this chassis out ever. So I figure now would be a great opportunity. Also, I went on a little shopping expedition to Menards and got some goodies. For example, I got a jigsaw. This will help me out with various projects, I imagine. For example, I need to cut out a new shelf for my Philco 38.7 chairside radio. I think this will do a great job with that. I also picked up some cleaning products like this, which I'm hoping will clean off some circuit boards like in the Predicta TVs I've got. Those circuit boards tend to really attract a lot of grime and goo. And some contact cleaner. Deoxit is great stuff, but I can't get it locally, and I think it's one of those hazardous materials, so it's got to go UPS ground, and you pay extra for hazardous chemicals shipping and so on. So I'm hoping that this stuff will work out well. And I know some of you will be really happy to see this. So I know the lighting in some of my videos isn't so great, although partially that's because of my camera and the auto light adjusting. So quite often when I do my videos, it's actually pretty bright, but what happens is there's a built-in light in this camera. And if there's a reflective surface, my camera detects that bright reflection and actually cuts down the aperture. So even though it's a brightly lit room, one small bright spot can cause the background to look quite dark when actually the whole room is fairly well illuminated. Anyways, I got 500 watt little halogen light, so I figure a great test for this will be when I pull out the chassis on that TV. I'll fire this up and try to get it shining into the back of the cabinet at a good angle so you can really see what's going on. Now, on another front, I was bitching about eBay and how I've been losing every auction and prices have gotten astronomical and so on and so on. Well, I think my luck may have changed. start with the simplest thing first, which is wires. On several of my radios, including that 3930 I just showed you, and more importantly, the Westinghouse WR8, which is neglected and ignored in this corner over here, they need new wires, because the old wires are all crumbly and nasty and disintegrating. Well, I want to keep these authentic if possible and use cloth covered wires. So I've been shopping around, and it's kind of tough to find. Now you can get modern stuff, no problem. So I got a whole rainbow assortment of colors for modern PVC type insulation. Same place I got that from also sells this cloth covered stuff. But really what this is the same PVC insulated wire, and they just put cloth over it, so it's more decorative than insulating. And I can fully understand why they do that, because this stuff is UL approved and it's rated for 600 volts. I don't think there is any just plain cloth or cloth that's wax impregnated over wire insulation that's actually UL certified. So I have occasionally seen listings for actual new old stock vintage wire, but that can be pricey, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's just as brittle and nasty as the old stuff, because it is as old as the old stuff. It just happens to still be on a spool and was never used. But I have persevered, and for the last couple of years I occasionally do another web search and see what's out there. And finally I stumbled across this stuff, which it turns out a lot of vintage guitar places sell for, like vintage Gibson or Les Paul guitars. Typically they sell white and black, and they'll just sell it in a couple foot lengths. I guess it's used internally to wire the pickups and so on. Well, there happens to be a seller on eBay that will sell this stuff in 50-foot spools. And he has it in multiple colors. So I got brown, black, yellow, red, and I think he also has blue and maybe white. Let's see if I can show you close up here. So what this is, it's 2 layers of cloth insulation. It's an inner white layer and then an outer cloth layer. Well, actually both layers are cloth. The inner layer, though, I think it's a different kind of cloth. I don't know if it's silk, probably not. Might even be synthetic. But at any rate, there's 2 layers. And this is what they call pushback. So you don't really have to strip it to do a short connection. You can actually just push the stuff back and then solder your wire on. Now, the stuff is not rated. See, it's just on a spool. There's no name. I don't know the voltage rating and so on. But for non-critical circuits, I think this stuff will work out fine. And for heavier current circuits, or circuits carrying line current, like the, to the AC power switch, I'll use this stuff. So between these two, I think I can finally, at some point, rewire the WR8 with, and keep it authentic looking. I'll post a link or something in the description to the exact seller. I don't recall the name off the top of my head. But if you search on eBay for, I believe, 22 gauge cloth wire, I'm sure you'll find this guy. He's got a store there, and he's got all the stuff listed. Now that was just a buy it now. But on the auction front, I also got lucky in a couple other cases. Although now that I think about it, I guess those were buy it now too, but they were just one-time opportunities. One is what's in this box, which should be an Admiral speaker for an Admiral TV. Specifically, the Bakelite set I got in Wisconsin recently when I got 2 sets. When I got this 12-inch Zenith porthole set and this 16-inch Admiral set that's the same chassis as all those sets I've been doing recently. Really, this was an afterthought. I really wanted the porthole set, but this was only 10 bucks, so what the hell, I got it too. And I was thinking I would just use it for parts, but it actually turned out to be in pretty good shape, so. Well, one of the things it was missing is the knobs. I've already found some knobs, and it was missing the speaker, and what's in that box should be the speaker for this TV. So, like I said, my luck seems to have turned. I didn't think I'd ever find a speaker for this, let alone find one within about 2 months of me getting it. And finally, and perhaps most amazingly of all, I think I got a channel knob for this predicted holiday. It turns out that there are various styles, and the one listed on eBay does not match the color of other photos I've seen of this set, but the styles seem to be exactly the same. And it was listed as a predicted channel knob. And the seller was honest. He said there are various styles for various models, and you might have to tinker a little bit. But they just do not show up, so I think it was definitely worth the gamble. So that was also a buy it now, and I just happened to be perusing eBay while I was supposed to be working this afternoon, and I pounced on it immediately. That should be here later in the week. And finally, one last thing, which is a WaveTech 163, which is a sweep generator. But this one only does low frequencies. It only does up to 5 megahertz. So I certainly can't use it for TVs and not even FM radios, but it should be great for AM radios. And it has all kinds of nifty features and all kinds of sweep options and so on. So that should be here later in the week, and I got my fingers crossed that it's actually in working condition, because all the seller said is that it powers up. But for the price he was offering it at, I couldn't pass up on it. First up, I'm going to unbox the speaker, and let's see what kind of condition it's in. Alright, it's promising. One slight tear there. Cone seems really fragile right around there, but no big deal. I can certainly repair that. And here's the piece of wood that it goes onto. Or not wood, it's a fiberboard, I guess. Let's see, it slides into the set like so. So the speaker goes like this. It's actually in pretty good shape. Often these will get damp and then they get all funky because the material starts to fall apart. I just happen to have another original one close by, so let's compare the two. Here's the piece of wood that it goes onto. Or not wood, it's a fiberboard, I guess. Let's see, it slides into the set like so. So the speaker goes like this. It's actually in pretty good shape. Often these will get damp and then they get all funky because the material starts to fall apart. I just happen to have another original one close by, so let's compare the two. Okay, I just pulled this one out of one of the sets I restored recently. The Admiral 16R11. And boy, they sure look the same to me. Other than the cloth being slightly different and dirty. But the dimensions, yeah, appear to be identical. Let's see, part numbers. 78B59, 78B53-1. Slightly different part numbers. And this does appear to be slightly beefier on the back side. But I would bet they're close enough. And the speaker's different diameter too. Huh, I'm kind of curious what this set might have come from. So I'll have to measure the resistance, see if the impedance is the same. Hopefully it'll be close enough that I can use it. Otherwise, I'm sure there's somebody else out there who can. It didn't cost me a whole lot of money anyways. And even if this speaker isn't quite right, I can always take it out and get one that is and use this backer board. Next up, let's check out this light. They had an LED version. I think that was about 40 bucks, whereas this was 10. So as much as I would have liked to have gone with the more energy efficient, high-tech LED version, I like to save money when possible, so I went with the $10 model. Alright, so it's a halogen. I guess I gotta open this up, take out the bulb and snap it in. And attach this base. Complicated. I'm sure there's a couple screws in here somewhere and the base attaches like so. Oh, I guess this is a safety cage because they get really hot. This is 500 watts. They also had a 1,000 watt model for a few more bucks. Alright, I will read through these instructions. I think I can manage it and put this together and let's see how it works. That went together pretty easy. The only thing you have to be careful about really is the bulb. You do not want to touch that halogen bulb with your bare fingers. You can't get any grease or dirt on it, or they can burn out and shatter. You have to use a clean cloth or napkin to hold it while you insert it. So that's set up here, aiming at the Admiral TV. I want to pop open. There's a little cover on the back here to protect the power switch. Take that off, and then you push that in. Set the camera down here and point it at my target. And here it goes. How's that? That better be enough light for you guys. That is blindingly bright. But before I tackle that TV, I want to pop this radio open. Let's take a quick look at that. One of the reasons I really like this radio, aside from the aesthetic appeal, is the evolution of the preset tuner. So I've got a Philco from 37, from 38, and this one from 39. Here's a quick overview of how that preset evolved. Okay, first up here is the radio from 37. I believe this is one of, if not Philco's earliest attempts at doing presets. So we got the circular dial here, which you can just tune with fine and coarse, like a conventional early style radio. But it's also got these little windows around the outside. Each one's got a label, like WBBM, WCFL, and WLS. Well, those are the presets. To choose one of them, you've got this outer dial here, which rides along, and you pick one like WLS, you push it in, and you rotate this whole thing around till it locks in. Or if you want a different one, you pick it, and you always bring it down to the bottom position. What that's doing is it's shifting this entire dial up top. So, pretty nifty, but large, complicated, and kind of finicky. There's a lot of stuff going on back here. Next in 38 we had the rather silly cone-centric tuning system. Again, a circular dial, and this time instead of there being a central knob you would turn, you actually have a control that rides around the outside of the dial. And there's simply a bar behind here that goes into the tuning shaft, which goes right to the tuning capacitor. So this would be your coarse tuning. Simply rotate this around. For fine tuning, you actually push this larger knob in here, and you kind of push it down hard so it rides against this groove surface, and while rotating it. This is a reproduction knob. It's plastic. It doesn't bite that well, but the original Bakelite works better. So this is kind of your fine tuning vernier. Now for the presets, you can see them marked around here on the dial. Well, there are cones around this track here. These are actually threaded, these cones, metal cones. You can, with a special tool, there's 2 points on the tip of this cone, you can bite into those, you loosen them up, and you can move them around this track. So the way the preset would work is you kind of look around here and see, find a station like here, WTMJ, and when you get to that, there's a cone actually that corresponds on the back side to that station. So you would roughly get there by looking at the needle, and then when you would push this plunger in, it locks in on that cone and get you exactly on that point. So it's not really so much a preset as just a lazy man's tuning guide. So you'd still have to look here to get roughly in the vicinity. You'd push this lever in and it would lock you in exactly on the station with the cone. So this only lasted for a few models for 1 year, and then finally we had the 3930 with more familiar preset system. However, this isn't quite there yet either. The way this works is you've got this knob here with 2 positions, manual, or sorry, this one rather, auto, manual, and shortwave. So auto, you flip to that and you tune the dial. There you go. Or sorry, manual, you turn this dial. So manual position, manual tuning. Auto, you flip this knob and you push the presets. However, notice nothing happens. If the radio is turned on, you would actually hear the stations. They're little call letters. You fill out labels and put them behind these windows. So WLS, WJJD. You push that and you get WLS. Behind here there are tuning slugs, and you use a tool and you set these up for your various stations. But this needle never moves when you push these. You just have to look at the call signs. That's what I meant by I wasn't quite there. I think it was another year or two till I finally got to the point where you would push a button and the needle actually jumps over to wherever you push this to. And the final position, shortwave. That also uses the manual tuning dial, and that's for this upper band on here. So I'll pop this chassis out. Let's get a closer look at how this actually works.